welcome to Upstage Downstage, with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Alan Ayckbourn's Show and Tell. We saw this production at the Stephen Joseph Theatre on the 21st of September 2024. Show and Tell is Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play and is a celebration of theatre, a delightfully dark farce lifting the lid on the performances we act out on a daily basis. So Stephen, what's it all about?
Jack's planning a big party for his wife's birthday. He's pulling out all the stops and has booked a touring theatre company to perform in the main hall of the family home. The only problem is that Jack is getting a bit forgetful in his old age and can't remember all the details of the booking. The Homelight Theatre Company is on its knees. They desperately need a well-paid gig, and Jack's booking is very well paid. Pinning him down on the details has been tricky, and something doesn't feel quite right.
But first, our post-show opinion!
I'll tell you not to show this one again.
Don't show and tell.
So, with all that said, let's
Set the scene. So here we are with our cups of tea, about to discuss Show and Tell, Richard. Now, we wanted to go to see this at Stephen Joseph Theatre. I was going to say St. Stephen then.
Yeah.
Yes, we wanted to go...
I mean, I know that's how you want to present yourself, you know.
Of course.
I mean, but you've just been waiting for the knighthood, haven't you? Let's face it.
I'm always waiting for the night.
And all you get...
But each time I get let down by the day.
Yeah, you do. You do. You just get a horse with nobody on it.
Thank God you said horse. Now then, so this show was in the round. It was Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play. Would you like to describe the set that we saw in the round?
Well, before we got to the Stephen Joseph Theatre, we had a bit of a wander around Scarborough itself. And when I got in there, I thought, oh, we've just been to a lot of charity shops. Shall we have a look? and I feel like they've just got all the rugs from the back room of the charity shop. No.
Had we have known.
Yeah, we could have added some more to the set.
Yeah.
I didn't see any prices on the items though in this place.
No, we were very close. We were on the front row.
Yeah. So yeah, basically the set was covered in old rugs that they must have had in storage because they were all very weathered and worn and used. And on top of that was, I'd say, there was two settees, and then three armchairs, and then what appeared to be basically somebody's front room, reception room of a grand house where you'd got two bay windows, but the bays were still in, but the windows had been cut away, so everybody that sat even on the front row could see everything that was happening. And on the other side was the perception of what would have been a fireplace, but it was just the two side plinths of the fireplace and a fire guard, scattered with different ornaments and vases and all the knick-knacks you'd see in a stately home. Almost felt like there was dust on everything because it had been used and not moved for a long time, really. Used
and not moved?
Well, used as in... It's like the dust of a fireplace, but it always had its place, but it gathered dust because it didn't really do anything.
Should have been part of the cast.
Should have, yeah.
And in the bays, just to reference this, there were two bays, and you could sit in them. They were like
they got the cushions in
bits.
where they put a little cupboard underneath and stuff.
Now this is very important.
Is it?
Yes. I'll tell you why. None of them were really used.
No, not really.
There might have been one tiny little sit on it by one of them, but that was it.
It didn't really ever get referenced, you know. And normally, when you have big pieces of a set, you'd make a point of using every part of it, really, even if it's just
looking out the windows.
For a scene. Yeah, they weren't really. Yeah, nobody really acknowledged they were windows in a way. There was no gazing off into that space.
No.
Gazing through the glazing.
I see what you did there.
Also, what we will say is there was books and magazines plonked by the side of the settee we were closest to. Just
with
plonked on the floor.
Did you say that?
Well, yeah, one had a
Yeah.
telephone on, but the rest were just like strewn about like people have been reading. There was also a chessboard. I think it was to try and show two different rooms, but it looked like one.
Well, it was meant to be one. However, it wasn't the main room. I think they called it like the hallway or the meeting. It wasn't really a room. It was just a place where people just pass.
Yeah.
But to us, I mean, it was a stately home, but it just looked like it was lived in.
Yeah.
Like a proper room.
I could sort of see where they were going. It was almost like, even in this big house, because this gentleman was living on his own, he'd moved everything into one space rather than all the other rooms. So they were all probably suitably full of stuff in the same way, but he only really used this room as his main sort of sitting room, as it were. And that's where it felt a bit confused, because there was, as I said, there was 2 sofas, 3 big armchairs, all spread around the set. So it did feel a bit like you wouldn't have that many in, or you might do. It felt a bit haphazard, but I can see why they did it, to show a bit of confusion and almost making the most of using that one space rather than everywhere else in the house.
Yeah, it equally could have just been a huge flat as well. You know?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, it could have just had like a dining table and chair instead of like another couple of armchairs and a small table with the chessboard on. But anyway, that's sort of what that was.
Yeah.
And
there's also a side table. The important thing I'll probably say is a side table full of statues, pictures, like
a coffee table that's pushed to the side.
Yeah.
And it remained to the side for a lot
Yeah,
of
and
it,
then there was a Globe drinks dispenser as well.
Yeah. So a lot of it was set dressing.
Yeah.
I have to say that. But again, why go to the effort of getting a telephone?
Yeah.
To keep it in place in Act 1, then when it goes to Act 2, moving it about, but still being visible, but it doesn't really get used.
Well, it never rang.
Exactly, so it never got used.
Not once did it.
So it didn't need to be there at all?
There was no... It was like there was the intention of it being put there, but also what I'd have seen is a faded telephone chair or telephone desk. Those old things that used to be grand for putting a telephone on. It felt like the telephone was just like, we've got to put one on stage, but you didn't have to because it didn't need.
Well, exactly, it was pointless.
Yeah, unless in the script something was written where they used the telephone and then they edited it out and they forgot to tell the set dresser.
I don't know.
It just seems strange.
It's for them to tell us.
Yeah, it just seems strange.
Yeah.
I think as well, because I know we'll dwell in on the telephone, but it didn't feel intentional enough for the rest of the people in the room to see that it was just plonked by the side of the sofa. If we hadn't sat on the front row right next to it, because it was down the side of one of the sofas, nobody would have seen that being there.
It's a bit like a few other things. If it's not needed, it shouldn't have been there.
No.
Because the set was already cramped as it was with all these armchairs and everything else.
But if it was meant to be there to show that he's living in quite a chaotic world, it didn't show the chaos either. Like that you've left this phone on the floor or you've left those on the floor, you've not put them away, and then you forget where things are. It didn't feel forgetful. It didn't feel like you'd put the kettle in the fridge or, it didn't have that element. It didn't feel like...
I mean, imagine if it was done, I'm going off on a tangent here, where it was a hoarder's house.
Yeah, well, exactly.
That was happening, when they had to perform... when the actors came in, that they had to perform in this house that actually was a hoarder's house.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They had to move a lot of the crap and books and stuff out the way.
But I almost feel like if the phone was meant to be on a pile of magazines, why wasn't it above sofa height so everybody in the room could see it? I think that's what I was getting.
Yeah, but with the coffee table, why weren't the magazines on the coffee table?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of on the floor.
Yeah, because
it's just these little things that we've focused in on these things, but because it was so close to us, it was very obvious for that one. But for the rest of the set, it was a good enough set for what they did in the round. At the end of the day, it served a purpose.
It took you to a place. It took you to that sort of front, that little living space.
Now, whether it should have been that place is a completely different
Yeah,
topic
exactly.
entirely.
Yeah.
So anyway, with the whole, I don't know where to go here. Maybe we should talk about the writing or the play itself before the direction, because this is sort of like a more speaking points about this play.
I've just thought of something though. Before we carry on, would the windows be where they were if the hall entrance was at the front of the house? The windows would more be both sides of the door rather than on one side.
Well, no, this is because they came in from the side.
It came down parallel with the windows. The front door was parallel with the windows.
Yeah, but we don't know if he's come into a room to then go into another room.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying because it's called the hall, you'd expect
Yeah.
windows to be front of the house and not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just.
Yeah, so it is the main hall, which again, it's more like a waiting room, isn't it?
It's like a reception room rather than a hall. That's what I was getting at.
That's what you're getting at, yeah.
Yeah, because you'd come in and then go off to the left or right side of a grand house. Your main door hallway would be as you walk in, and your windows would let light in where the door, rather than just one side, you'd have both sides, or it'd be a hallway where you'd have, it's a passing place, isn't it? That's all.
Maybe the issue here is just calling it a hall.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean, yeah.
It's a reception room
Yeah, it
rather
is.
than a hall.
Yeah.
But either way, that was just one of the
Yeah,
things. So let's talk about the play then. Show and tell. I'm going to say it was very much the first act. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
So the setup is very much information dump of a lot of things. So a lot of character setup. And the second act ended up being the show part, where it ended up being a show within a show. So the first part, you had the older gentleman, Jack Botheridge. He's there, and he had this actor turn up wanting to perform in their house. So then he said, "Oh yes, why don't you perform for my wife? It's her birthday. Let's celebrate. Let's do that." So then when the actor does turn up in the very beginning of the first act, Jack is very forgetful. He doesn't know why he's there, and in fact he thinks he's here to fix the aerial or the electrics or the plumbing or something. I can't remember now. But it starts off being like this is going to be a farce. There's going to be some communication issues here because we're setting up the character of Jack being forgetful.
Yeah.
And not having a clue. And then we get his friend, this Ben Wilkes, turn up, who is trying to help him, the old guy, Jack, just live his day-to-day life. Like a living carer, well, not really a living carer, but being a carer to him.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to address the balance and say to the actor that actually his wife is no longer around anymore because she passed away, and this has all been sort of like a mistake.
It's a facade, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But he, as it turns out, he likes to act, or he was part of an acting thing. So there's a vested interest for him to be part of that. And it was very much setting up that kind of tone and the background of the relationship between Jack and Ben and who they are. Because at first I thought, is there something between them two? You know, it felt a bit weird. Like, is the wife like not really the wife? Is there something?
Yeah, exactly.
Going on there.
It's hard to pinpoint it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came across as a bit strange. But as it turned out, the wife had passed away, but she left Jack for Ben, and because she's now deceased, Ben's feeling guilty, so he's having to help Jack. Now he's sort of like, I don't know, some form of dementia going on there, or just helping him out now because
there was a lot of within this whole scene setting. There was a lot of moments where Jack was showing that he was suffering some form of dementia, or that he kept flitting between things and
being a bit aggressive as well.
Aggressive and and very much fixed on the fact that his wife was still around, even though he never saw her through the first half. And he quickly started to realise that she was missing, and she was never going to be seen. But it did feel chaotic. And I get why they were doing it, but I don't think there was times when it felt chaotic enough to understand where that was leading.
I think also when you had the second act where Harriet, known as Harry, turns up, and she's the managing director of the company. After Peter said, "Oh, it's all okay to go," so she comes in to do a recce on the premises and see if everything's okay, and will he sign? And this is how much it's going to cost for them to do this performance in his house. So there's a bit of a twist there where more information gets added that we now know that Peter, the actor, has an interest in Harriet.
Yeah.
But in the background, we've got a slight farce building because we've got Harriet being known as Harry.
Yeah.
So a miscommunication in the names. You've also got the guy who's got a bit of memory loss. You've got the Ben, the home help, who's trying to cover up, who wants to act, but then whilst he's wanting to act, he's also fluffing up words, like having a bit of like malapropisms, and we're sort of building up for something to come later on in Act 2. But it's a very slow build-up.
Yeah,
like
and
it
was
slow and plodding.
There was a few times where it was really almost difficult to follow the narrative almost because of these confusing moments, but also you could see through it. You knew what was coming in the second half a little bit, where you could see that.
Well, I didn't know that was coming.
No.
In terms of what we got.
Yeah. I think what I mean is we knew it was going to be some sort of performance in the second half, and it felt like it took a long time to get there.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm going with that. It just felt we knew, that was the main plot point, and we knew that was going to.
Yeah, too much detail and too much. In a way, it felt like it was half done. But but that's my review cut into the end bit.
But I think for me it was not just that. It was I felt a little like we've got to use all the pieces of scenery to sit on them or move around them and make sure.
It was a game of musical chairs.
Yeah,
they should have actually had music on, and just like every time it stopped, we're going to sit here.
Yeah, we'll sit here and we'll talk over here, and then we're going to make sure that the chessboard gets tipped over, and we're going to this and we're going to that, and it just felt a little bit like everything was put in the right place, rather than like I was saying about how if you've got somebody that's going through quite a lot of chaos, they'd leave things lying around, or they'd find things that they shouldn't normally be there, but it all felt very like in the right place at the right time, ready to do a certain scene, rather than let's make the chessboard or let's open it out and do it while we're talking, rather than the chessboard's already there, so let's just do that. And then it was like I knew it was going to be tipped over, and it was like there wasn't enough misdirect for it to have impact or make you take notice of it sometimes, I think.
Yes, and I think when it's called show and tell, I'm seeing that the play is actually what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the first act as the telling bit.
Yeah.
So then really it should be tell and show. But of course, it's how they say it. However, you can forgive, I'd say at this point, I could forgive the first act of being the tell.
Yeah.
Because the tell is the setting up of the characters.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, whilst it was funny, it was very dated. A lot of it did seem to stem... it's not a contemporary play as such. It's more. It feels like it's still living in the 70s, 60s, this kind of a play. With the
even though there's
jokes.
Mobile phones being used and things like that,
yes,
it still felt
the. I mean, obviously the characters were in their age.
Yeah.
But when you've got the younger ones, it just seemed a little stifled in a period of. I think that stems down to the writer, Alan Ayckbourn here. I have to say. So then, when we do come into the second act, we have the show within the show, the French farce that they were promised, that Jack was promised by the actors that he's paid for to give his wife a birthday treat.
Yeah, so the set basically changed. Basically, all the seating was moved round to the edges of the room to create a perimeter of tables and chairs. And they rolled out a big rug to simulate an acting space with a tiled floor part for a different fireplace in a different place, and an ornate chair and little table with another ornate almost sofa, but it was one of the sort of Victorian style where it's got hardback wooden framing on it. So yeah, it just to show that it was going to be another space really. And yet again, the phone and the magazines were all just shoved to one side and
not used.
Not used again. But they were there right in front of our feet. But that was it really.
And in Act 2, we are introduced to a new character called Steph, and she was not just the actress, but she was mostly the tech assistant.
Yeah.
For this small travelling theatre company, and
I suppose as well to add to that, all the way through the first half, we've been building up for somebody not being available.
Oh, of course,
all the way through, and you thought, here we go, we're gonna have some. There was the first was one male part, and then the second was a female part that you knew they were building up to put somebody into the production in the second half,
adding to this farce,
adding to the farce of it all,
and because that actor famously couldn't turn up because he was or she was somewhere else, we ended up having the character Ben, who wanted to act all along, the home help, the friend who's looking after Jack, say, "Oh, I'll do it." So then he auditions for the part.
Yeah. And
what was quite funny is he made the actual actor look stupid.
Yeah.
Because the actual actor forgot the lines, and this new improv.
Ben knew everything.
Yes, and he just made his transition from amateur to professional just seemed like a huge jump and more believable.
Yeah.
And you're still at this point waiting for this farce to turn up.
Yeah. And I suppose there's a slight farce in it where they got Steph Tate to read in that was doing all the technical stuff that they got her to read in, which you saw was coming, but
because she was sticking to the script, the Peter actor wasn't.
Yeah.
He ad-libbed bits. And, so overall, when they did the French farce, when Jack brought his wife in, which wasn't really there, his imaginary wife, he sat at the corner of the room whilst they did this play, and he fell asleep, so he completely missed it. They reenacted this play, which was a story about, I can't remember who the characters were, but it was a love affair between somebody that the guy met on a train, who turned out to be the help of.
Yeah, it was basically a mirror image of what was happening in real life, wasn't it?
Yeah. So whilst they did all that, and they uncovered who slept with who and what this all meant, Jack Botheridge slept throughout.
Yeah. For the whole second half.
For the whole second half. So what was the point in that?
The only real scene he did was where he welcomed his wife to sit down next to him before he fell asleep. And that was it.
And then they ended it on, they had a round of applause because that play had finished, and then he stood up and gave a round of applause and took the bows because the whole play finished.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the heck was this about?
Like we said after the event, we sat there thinking, you've spent all the first half building up Jack's character and all the intricacies within it for him to completely fall asleep in the second half and not even have a final scene to sort of wrap his character up. It was literally, that was it. So the first half was just Jack and information, but the second half had no content about anything else. All you did was learn about the other characters and what actually happened in the past. So it just felt a little pointless.
Ironically, it was show and tell.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make for a good play. And it certainly wasn't entertaining for where it went. And why set up a lot of things, especially with Alan Ayckbourn being known for comedy farces.
Yeah, exactly.
That the points were set up for something good, but it just never delivered anything.
Even if it had been something on the lines of where Jack had said, "Well, I knew you went off with her," like even if there'd have been some acknowledgement or something that, there'd have been some sort of, just
I was
passing
waiting
thing.
for like him to snap away and think, I remember that. I know, of course. So that's how it.
Yeah,
that's who it was,
exactly.
like reliving the past,
Yeah.
or him to acknowledge it, or have some kind of breakdown or emerge from his sleep, or for him to see what's going on, or to have some kind of resolve there or a bit of drama there.
It just felt wasted. It felt like you've gone through all that and then it went nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
and the connection between Harriet and Peter, the managing director and the actor, there was nothing there. So that was built up like one fancies the other, or will they get together? Will they get pregnant? Or
yeah,
whatever.
will it like repeat the history?
But then nothing there. So then there's two characters there plus the techie where we weren't really bothered about their characters or their journey or what that was about. They served no purpose.
No,
Even
exactly.
the main character really didn't serve a purpose.
The only real character that had any evolution was Ben.
Ben, and it feels like this was a vehicle for Ben.
Yeah, exactly. But and I know it's like you've always said, you don't even have to. Not every plot line has to have a payoff or has to be wrapped up by the end. But this felt like nothing got wrapped up really.
Well, have I ever said that?
Well, no. What I mean is, what I'm saying is, you don't have
some
to.
do. It doesn't
not
have to be-
everything has to finish. You can leave the audience guessing. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
That's what I mean in the sense of you haven't got to.
Yeah.
The you're in life, it carries on, so you don't have to have a definite end, but this just felt like it didn't know what it was going to do at the end.
Yeah, you come away not feeling satisfied with any of them.
No,
That there's been no conclusion. Like you've not really been on a journey.
because I mean, for me,
At all.
the actor and the Peter and Harriet, you almost see that eventually they might get together. That's a really loose thing because you just think, well, they're going to have to work together. Something will come to a head, blah blah blah. But they weren't really the core members. They were contributing to the production, and it just felt like
Well, they were the support act, weren't they?
But the main act didn't really have a payoff in the sense of where all you knew was that he was in a delirious, delusional state, and
that was us as the audience.
and then we came out very similar. It wasn't it was a weird feeling at the end of the production when everybody else. I don't know if everybody else got it either because they were all a bit like stunned.
Yeah. Now, what I think we'll do with this, before we get on to the directing, I've made some notes, as you're well aware. I'll go through each plot point, or each note, and then we can just discuss that, because they're probably going to be the same.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, which I think we've already said on this one. The actor Peter, being mentioned of having a business partner in Harry, who turns out was Harriet. And Jack was talking about them being together. Why don't he ask her out, or why did they not have a kid? Now, why was that even mentioned if it wasn't pushed to go anywhere? And then, why all the issue with her wanting to be called Harry rather than Harriet? A slight counter thing, but if it meant nothing,
Why do it?
what was the point there?
I think it was written as a misdirect to think that it was, but he didn't really
Again,
pay anything. He didn't get
Exactly, there
anything.
was no payoff because you assume it's going to be a setup for a comedy farce or something like that, or miscommunication, like we said, but again, went nowhere. So that was that bit. The other one. Now again, I put, which we've just talked about, the character of Jack didn't pay attention to the second act at all. He fell asleep in his car. No, he wasn't in the car. He fell asleep in his chair.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't react. And now, is that supposed to be symbolic to real-life events? Because whilst the love affair going off between Ben and his wife, was he just oblivious and asleep to all of it? Was that what that was about?
Yeah, but
Do we assume?
again, you can assume that. It just felt too long for it to be the whole second half. Because that's what we're talking about.
It felt
This
like
is
we
the
were missing
entire-
another act, the end of it.
It's like we were missing something else because that you could say yes that the physical presence is useful because he's always there in the room when it happens, but it almost felt underwritten, because what's the point? Why have somebody sat there for no reason? You know,
Unless
to not
it's
even unless it's going to come out. It's a bit like the Father Ted thing with the dad, with Grandad or whatever. Is it Grandad?
Yeah, Uncle Jack. No, not Uncle Jack. It was just Jack, wasn't it?
Where you hardly say anything and you say the odd word, or a bit like in
Father Jack.
Father Jack, yeah.
Honest to God, Father Ted. Father Jack.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, it's like that character that's there, but they only put a few words in that say quite a lot, and we never got that moment. So what's the point of doing it? Or, you know, it's a bit like in Mrs. Brown's Boys with the Grandad, where he sat there, doesn't say a word, and then comes out with something funny at the end. Or it was like, what's the point of having somebody just sat there with no writing? Because it's almost like the line is, oh, such and such sits there, that's it, end of. The thing is, they could have been clever, and he could have talked in his sleep. He could have murmured something in his sleep that progressed the lines, or he could have said some truths in while he was there, because the production, technically, this show for him was all done for that one audience member, not a big crowd of people. So he could have murmured something in his sleep. He could have said something, or you don't know.
I think the whole premise to this is that it's show and tell, but it fell flat on all points here, because it wasn't clever enough to be something more than just showing and telling and boring people. My next point is, again, Ben, great character, but had not much payoff other than to perform. Again, like with everyone else, no real resolution there, no tie-ups. There was another bit. Why was Peter, the actor, moaning about equity? Was that just an in-joke, just because he was an actor?
I think it was, because I think that there was a few moments like that where it was written almost to have a pop at certain situations, but again, it didn't really go anywhere. Yeah, and
and
unless you're in the know, you wouldn't really know
as
it.
a student, as an audience member, you just not bothered about that.
No,
and it never added anything either.
No,
not like everything has to add anything, but it was just in the know jokes, I suppose, that just fell a bit flat. As I said, the show was basically show and tell, and then leave you asking, well, who cares at the end of that one. Did you feel that the pace or the energy dropped during Act 2?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. I want to know what this play was for, what it was about. What did it mean to be? Was it a comedy? Was it a farce? Should it have been drama? Where did it fit?
And I think this is why we're struggling to analyse it in that way, because I can't really make my mind up what it was, because it's very difficult to understand where their aim was for this, and that's why it makes it difficult to talk about it in such a end-to-end way, really.
Because it's obvious, it's to show and tell.
Yeah.
But the how you get there and the story you tell of showing and telling still needs to be quite clever in that tone. Yes, let's just move along to the direction then. I felt at times it was relatively okay for being in the round, considering of the premise and the fact that it was just in one hallway reception room, whatever you want to call it, and you've got audience members on each side, so they did move about the chairs and the set just so they can be seen and heard. But I do feel the energy pretty much lacked a little bit, and I think when you've got an unlikable character like Jack was, this comes down to the writing again. You want to see it resolved just to see everything's okay at the end, but you weren't.
Even if it's
really
a sad
happy,
end,
you weren't bothered.
Even if it's something that's quite disturbing, it just
like to bring him around for you to understand and care about the fact that that's why you felt like that, or that's why you forgot, But back to the directing. I just thought it was all right. There wasn't anything majorly wrong.
I think as well for me, it's like even if he'd have woken up and realised she's not sat next to him, because it was all the pretense of bringing her in as his wife, but then waking up and realising that she must have gone to bed. So, like almost a moment.
Well, maybe it's like a revelation, like the show and tell that he's organised. It showed him that she's not around anymore.
Yeah, like that's
him, like he snaps out of it or brings him round to accepting reality, the truth.
But he didn't go there, did it? It just felt like, oh, that's it. He's still living in this cycle.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're here for the drama. So, costume, props, and the acting, Richard. There wasn't really that much props. There were handheld magazines, and Peter had a warbler, because that comes into the sound effects later on. The costumes were good for the French farce, because that was a period setting that was. What was it, 18th century, something like that?
Yeah.
Renaissance. I thought overall, this highlighted Paul Kemp's ability as an actor to go from one character to the other extraordinarily. He was really,
portrayal
really
of Ben
good.
was really good.
I felt the others were competent as well, which was good. Yeah, I think everything was okay. This is really hard when you have to search for something to say about the actors. They all did a good job, including Bill Champion, who played Jack, the old guy who was just irritable. His character wasn't particularly likeable anyway, but he did a really good performance of that one, because he really didn't like Jack at all. This was Olivia Woolhouse's first acting job since drama school, I believe. Yes, this is her professional debut, and I do feel that you could tell there was
unfortunately.
There was some confidence, and then some not like.
I don't know.
I
don't know if like Olivia took the.
No, it's rabbit in the headlights, isn't it?
Yeah, rabbit in the headlights. I don't know if Olivia took it maybe too literal when she's told to be act bored or act not bothered, because
it came across
as very low energy rather than bored and acting bored. Because if you want to make it funny, there should have been a lot more tuts and a lot more overemphasis a little bit, whereas it was just flat a little. There was a lot of moments where it just felt.
She peaked when she was doing the farce within the farce,
yes,
and then she got into it, which was good, and she did actually grab the audience's attention. Whether her attitude with the context of the play in the second attitude and in the second act, and how that made everyone feel, because we were already feeling like this better pay off, otherwise what's the point? Why are we bothered? And then with a character that just feels equally as unimpressed and not bothered about anything, it just came across a little bit weird.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the Tech Is This?
So on the tech side of things, in the second act, the actors, they had a techie come in with their amps and the whole stuff
with a box full of equipment.
Yeah, I don't feel like they needed it at all.
It just felt like a slight distraction that.
Because she had her laptop out, she set everything up.
She got a laptop out, set everything up.
I don't recall any songs being played.
There was no songs being played, and there was no the amp. There was one, wasn't there, just to start it?
Oh, maybe
off.
I don't know. But she had a proper old-fashioned bell to use within the play.
So we had.
But the actor Peter had a warbler, so we didn't even have like sound effects of birds or anything else.
No,
that was
at
already
all.
done by the actor.
Yeah, so it was like if we're doing sound effects and stuff, we either use a laptop or just do it live. And they could have just had a CD player and pressed play, or they could have just done the same thing with just something, because it was such a small room.
Yeah, so it never really got utilised at all.
No,
unless you're having a lot of like sound effects or
well, unless it's a big
it.
space, there's no point having.
But why write it
exactly
if you don't really use it?
For me, I think it was written in as a distraction, because it was something happening while this is happening, and it was just to show the setting up of a.
Well, you might as well. It's the equivalent of having like a DJ come and perform, and you're watching a DJ perform, but what he's performing is a silent disco.
Exactly, yeah.
So you don't hear anything.
No,
You know, but
exactly.
they're there.
And it just
What was the point?
it just didn't feel like. I feel like it was all about the sort of preamble of getting ready to do a production, and it was like the going through the lines, and then can you do this? It was something for me. It was something that Steph came on to do in a corner, so that then she could be asked to be the prompt. Then she could be asked to be the standing character. That was really why that was written, but it just felt a bit all over the place.
Taking a long time just setting the speakers
especially
up
when you
the
also
cables.
bring real sound effects in, and you never actually do any on it. So it's quite linear, isn't it? I think it's just it's quite predictable, and
it's like the thought were there to do it, but then it never. The reason behind doing it just sort of like fell as the writing continued and other things moved along.
Even if to add to the farce element that it gets put in the way when they're acting and they knock it over, or it's like
or different sound effects come up. I think we talked about this, that maybe if there were different sound effects coming out,
it was just doing a bad job. It's like it didn't elevate to the next part really.
But that was the show within the show and tell show. It was just normal lights, wasn't it? There wasn't anything extra. I can't think other than the main door effect in a car driving off, I suppose. No, you never even got that.
No.
Because we opened up with him saying to his wife, Jack saying to his wife, don't be long, you're going shopping or whatever it was. And then he answered the door again, so that's where you got the doorbell. And then he thought she'd come back to get something, but it was the actor. So we assume that the wife was still alive. But in terms of sound effects for the actual show and the lighting, bare minimum.
It was bare minimum. And lighting wise, it was just general cover all the time. They didn't even bring any lighting stands out for the production within the show. So, and I think that's why, like when you're on about sound effects, what's the point if you're not going to bring the other, a small level lighting rig just to.
Was there a gunshot in the French farce bit? Because she had a gun. She was swinging a gun about, wasn't she?
Didn't that end?
Because you normally pick up on the gunshots.
Yeah, I do. I didn't really this one.
Well, the thing is, it was so forgettable.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I think we'll just have to leave it there on that one and move on to our next little segment.
Yeah.
And now it's time for Rewind Rewatch.
What would you like to rewind and watch again?
I think the only thing I can pick out is when Ben changed his character and knew every line backwards, forwards, upside down. It was the bit with the most energy in as a production in the show within a show.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Other than that, I wouldn't really waste my time watching this again.
No, I was going to say that'd be it.
Really. Yeah, because there's just nothing to it. There's no point.
I could see him doing really well as a one-man monologue performing something.
Oh, show and tell just with him, and fine, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not to diss the other actors.
No,
by the way. It's
no,
just
no,
because there's more of a character thing with the Ben Wilkes' character.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say, call this a show?
Call this a show then, Richard. So let's sum up. Personally, as I've already said, this play was was basically show and tell. It told us and it showed us and left very little for us to take home. It was pretty dull, and I don't understand what the point was.
And I echo that, but I also say for me, I've not learnt anything from it. All I've learnt is the bits that it really matters when you've got a production that has to have a proper storyline, start to finish, and this sort of just disappeared in the second half. And it left me not wanting more. It left me just left me sort of cold. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And I'm not saying that they weren't acting well or this, that, and the other. I think it's just let down by the sort of combination of writing and situation that it's been written about.
Which is very shocking considering it's an Ayckbourn.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I suppose it's the 90th play, so.
Yeah.
We come across this quite a lot, don't we, where people who have wrote a film, wrote a book or whatever, they said, come and do a stage version of it, and they just take bullet points or whatever. I'm not saying that Alan doesn't know stagecraft, because he does, but it's the people around you, your dramaturgs, your people that read it, you need to say, well, Alan, this doesn't really make sense. You need to round it off, even if they say, no, I know what I'm doing. I've got 90 play.
I just think, and for me, I feel like it's almost like the Coronation Street or EastEnders way of doing something where it's like, oh, we've not done a play about dementia for a bit, or we've not done an episode about this. It's like, let's just do that,
Yeah,
and it's like, let's just pluck that out of the sky, and then it just...
This play doesn't even delve into that or carry that on in any way either.
No, it doesn't. But also, I feel like that was the main thread of thought through this, but then... maybe some of Alan's other ideas that he's had for other plays have just been sandwiched into this rather than it being its own entity. I think that's what I'm, and I think it's a bit
this
like...
is like a Lego block play where it's neither a red house or a blue house or a yellow house. It's sort of like a mix.
It's like, I like that bit, but I don't know where I'm going to put it. Oh, well, I can fit it in this and we could do this with it. And it just,
Bit messy.
Yeah.
So let's read some reviews.
No, it's not a review.
Oh, is it not?
So what I'm going to do is read you 2 sentences.
Okay.
And I want to see what you think. You ready?
Oh, we can call this reactions.
Reactions. Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play, A Love Letter to Theatre, delivered under the title of Show and Tell, opens at the Stephen Joseph Theatre. Mm-hmm. This is a delightfully dark farce that lifts the lid on the performances we act out on a daily basis. Discuss.
Dark farce.
Not the dark force.
No, but just because it touches upon subjects of dementia doesn't mean it's a dark.
No.
Or it's a farce in any way. Where was the farce?
And where was the...
Have I missed? Was there an act that I've missed? Did I...
And where was the acting out on daily basis?
Yeah, what was that? You could just say that about anything, because everyone lives their life on a daily basis, do they not?
And I think this is maybe why it's so confusing as a production, because it's so broad a statement that we act out on a daily basis.
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But what gets me is the dark farce. It's not even a farce, never mind a dark one. Does dark mean it's only half a farce?
And is it a love letter to theatre?
No.
So...
where was the love in that? That was a half-assed...
Half-fast.
Half-assed,
A half-fast.
Yeah.
Production. Yeah,
that certainly wasn't in the light. Well, no wonder it was dark.
Well, exactly.
But the storylines weren't dark enough for it to be dark. If it had dark humour, so it was a dark farce, and the farce was a farce, then totally, I'd say that was a really good dark farce, but that wasn't even a farce. So I don't know what they're talking about. It had things to set up as a farce, but the fact that we went to see it and it wasn't a farce was a farce within itself.
Yeah, I certainly expected something different to what the title suggests.
And this isn't just us saying this. I'll say this now. It was when you left the auditorium, you could just hear the audience members, even in the interval, going, well, that was a bit half-assed. What was that about?
Yeah.
Oh, and at the very beginning, the actor, the old man, said something about his wife or something. That, she'd miss me if I wasn't here or something. And the audience member turned around and said, she wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's how much they didn't particularly take to that character. But even in the interval, it's like, well, what was that about? And I hope it gets better.
It was definitely a quiet exit of an audience. It wasn't like, oh my God, that was amazing, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a murmur or a mumble of,
they weren't even
excitement.
angry that the time's been wasted. It was like, right, let's go and get a pie or something.
Yeah, let's go and get fish and chips by the sea.
Yeah, it was like... Anyway... The next review, the next thing, there was 2, you said?
No, that was the 2 in 1.
It was 2 in 1?
Yeah.
Oh. Is there any more?
Oh, yeah, there is one more.
Oh.
So this is a statement from Sir Alan. Right. Show and Tell is about something which has preoccupied me for the last 60 years and probably more, theatre. Says Sir Alan, now 85, it's a love letter to theatre. So
touching upon the actors making... a play out of nothing in people's homes, going around. I get that. Making a living somehow. And they go to all that effort just for people in big houses not to pay attention or not to take it seriously. To talk about people who are amateur that are really good but they don't get a look in, but they could do a better part than the legitimate actors, maybe. Is that where we're going here? Is that the subjects we're picking up on?
I've got another statement.
Oh, okay.
Show and Tell presents an interesting challenge for the cast, says Sir Alan. Once it starts, they have two challenges. They have to be the persona who comes into the rehearsal room and the actor they are playing, and then the character they're playing in the play within the play.
So because they're actors acting, they're also actors acting, them being actors that are acting.
Yes.
So again, I think this comes down to you saying you didn't know what this was.
Yeah.
You know, there's too many things fitting in here. You've got that element, and then you've got the farce that wasn't really a farce, and then you've got the dementia thing of.
But then that to me says everybody has to be part of it.
Yeah.
As in, everybody in the room should have been a part on that production, not fall asleep in the second half. If they're all meant to be in the play version of the production, you know, for me, they could have had Jack's character completely switch and be a completely different person in the second half.
Hang on a minute. Actors playing actors.
Yeah.
In a farce.
Yeah.
Noises off.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was this?
I
rest my
off
case.
Rather than there was not many noises.
There was noises off.
No, there wasn't many noises. It was just off.
It was just off. The noises were the audience heading off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I sort of disagree. I can understand the fun element of trying to write something on the themes or the elements of the idea behind it. I understand that, but it still didn't come across. It still didn't hit right, and it wasn't consistently funny, and it certainly wasn't a farce. I think just because it's a comedy doesn't make it a farce. If you set it up with all the farcical elements, like sound effects, misuse of the names, forgetfulness, not hearing right, physical disadvantages and stuff like that, then bring it. But if it doesn't play out, it's not a farce, and it's certainly not a dark farce, and it certainly doesn't come across as a love letter to theatre, in my humble opinion. That isn't professional whatsoever.
Sorry, I'm just reading this because I feel like I sort of want to read this to you, but I don't know what to. One of the things we'll do is go from modern naturalism to French farce, but I don't like much of that leaping in and out. Once they start doing the play within the play, they do the play, and I don't want to make the farce bad as it's a celebration of theatre.
Well, you've made the farce bad.
They're at a level where it's not laughing out loud at their ineptitude, nor is it making fun of amateurs, as then you've lost the point of the play. I've never tried to do that. I didn't do that in a chorus of disapproval either. The performance level should remain reasonably high. Come the finale, play and the play within a play a lead. There's a moment at the very end where the farce and show and tell proper coincide, when they're taking their bows to endless empty rows, at which point a dormant member of the audience wakes with a jolt as he joins clapping and doing the encouraging to do so as he breaks through the fourth wall. We get the Pilandaresco flip that I'm anxious to pull it off. I'm completely... So the only
I get what
reason...
he's trying to say about the ending.
Only reason he's asleep for the whole second half
is to pull off.
Is to stand up and clap.
Again, taking too many elements of other people's ideas and stuff to incorporate it into your play. And that doesn't work. Well, it didn't work because that's not how we felt, nor the audience that watched. But also, when he says he doesn't want it to be too funny or too whatever to be a farce in case of it showing them up or making amateur theatre people look bad. Why are you making amateurs look bad when actually the amateur who was Ben was the best one?
Exactly.
So you've already made him good. To have carried that out and been a farce or made him be better and the other ones be forgetful or, you know, that could have been you could have gone somewhere there and made it a farce. But by holding back...
It took every element of a farce away.
So it wasn't a farce.
No.
It was barely a comedy.
Well, enlightening.
Certainly not entertaining. Scores then please, Richard, for Alan Ayckbourn's Show and Tell. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a show to tell everyone and 1 being a show to tell no one. What's it going to be?
I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
And...
Oh, there's reasons.
No, that's it. 4 out of 10.
For me, you beat me. I'm giving it a 3.
Well.
So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap?
A pleasant applause or a standing ovation? What will it be?
I'm going for tumbleweed.
It's a concoction of tumbleweed and train wreck, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. Should we settle for that?
Yeah,
It's
it's
tumbleweed and
yeah.
train wreck.
So there we are. That's our discussion of Alan Ayckbourn's show and tell. We hope you found it insightful.
If not entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
And opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage.
We saw this production at Stephen Joseph.
Already.
We saw this production at. No. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Alan Ayckbourn's show and tell. We saw this production at Stephen Joseph Theatre at the. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Alan Ayckbourn's show and tell. We saw this production at the Stephen Joseph. Show and tell, Stephen. Show me the
Show
money.
and tell.
Show me the money.
Show and tell.
Show it is. Show it is.
You show it and I'll tell it.
You've got to be anything that you want it to be.
Oh.
Oh, right. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Alan Ayckbourn's show and tell. We saw this production at the Stephen Joseph Theatre on the 21st of September.
Oh, the what? That was somber.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing Alan. Oh, I'm going to keep looking laughing.
Yeah, we've already done that bit. We saw this production.
Show and tell is Alan Ayckbourn's. Show and tell is Alan Ayckbourn's ninth play.
We've regressed already.
Yeah, we are. Show and tell is Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play. Is a celebration of theatre, and
is a celebration of theatre. A delightfully dark farce, lifting the lid.
Show and tell is Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play and is a celebration of theatre. A delightfully dark farce.
What? I was for.
A delightfully dark farce lifting the lid on the performances we act out on a daily basis. So with all that said...
No, what do you mean with all that said? Let's just cut me out of the picture altogether, shall we?
So, what's it all about?
No, so, Stephen.
So, Stephen, what's it all about?
Well, do you need to do all that again?
Yeah, I think I do. Show and tell is Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play and is a celebration of theatre...
And is a celebration of theatre.
I did so well in the last one. Show and tell is Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play and is a celebration of theatre. Show and tell is Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play and is a celebration of theatre. A delightfully dark farce lifting the lid on performances. Lifting the lid on performance. No, I'm just fucking abbreviate. I'm just jumping past.
Show and tell is a delightfully dark farce lifting the lid on performances we act out on a daily basis and is Alan Ayckbourn's 90th play and is a celebration of theatre.
No, I'll do it that way around. It's fine.
Which way around?
Can't reword it.
Why can't you?
No, it's fine. So, with all that said, let's
make it make sense. You're a little loud there.
Yeah, it's probably because I put it close.
Oh, did you?
Oh, I did, yes. Well, I need to talk naturally.
Oh, only talk naturally. You don't need to put your normal common voice on.
Oh, I wouldn't dare put my common voice on.
Yeah, I know you like slumming it just for the podcast.
No one has to fit in normal society.
Oh, by Jove, I don't even do that.
I couldn't sip tea from stoneware. That's what the cavemen use.
Oh, really?
Oh, fine bone china.
I do allow my butlers and my servants to use the earthenware.
Oh no, mine gets smashed every time I use it. I'll only use it once. I told them we're not having a dishwasher. We will break them all and start again.
Exactly. I said no to muesli. I will not have that in the house. I do not need bowls.
Oh, but granola, I could eat that all day. It keeps me regular.
Oh. Well, you know what you're like being regular.
Well, I like to be on time.
Are you showing and telling?
I'm showing intelligence, dear.
Oh dear.